I-1, 33 kilometres away. Good thing it's a lovely paved road here.
Not the worst corrugations we've ever seen anywhere.
Only 33 k's to go at about 15 k an hour.
Hey guys, welcome back to episode 5 of the Gap Lap. In this episode we're covering Esperance to Albany and then through to Denmark.
We're going to try and focus on what it's been like adjusting to life on the road, because
after being on the road now for about a month, there's a few things that we've sort of noticed and settled into. So thought we'd give some tips and tricks that we've sort of found as we've settled into that.
Yeah, because we did a lot of planning and listened to a lot of people telling us tips and tricks before we left, but there's only so much that you can sort of pick up.
The more you know, the more tips and tricks you have, the more helpful it's going to be. I
guess that comes back down to the root of why I started this channel 4 years ago, and that was off the back of a university assignment. It got me thinking about the content that's out there and the content that I use and why I use it and why it's there, and I essentially just wanted to put something out there that might help other people, because other people had put other videos out there which I used and found helpful. So I feel like if 1% of the people who watch this get some sort of benefit out of it, then that's excellent. If you've been a long-term subscriber of my channel, you'd know that most of my videos have been how-to videos, so how to fix pretty much most things on the van at this stage. So it's been an interesting transition. We're both learning. Still feel a little awkward in front of the camera. We both do.
Uncomfortable for us.
Yep. We have been hearing a few things from family and friends of friends and whatnot who have been following along and finding what we've been putting out there interesting. So that's lovely to hear. And I think it really does help us to continue and
boosting our confidence as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Hearing that people actually want to watch the videos.
Yeah. I don't know how many cards I dealt.
You dealt 8.
Is that the right amount?
No, 7, but that's fine.
We're going to run with it.
One of the biggest things has been around like budgeting, and the way we sort of budgeted was to get an average for each week, which at the time makes sense. But something that we sort of didn't think about there was that a lot of the more touristy, busy, more expensive places that we were hitting up were going to be right towards the start of our trip. And so that was a little bit scary, I guess, for us, being only in our first couple of weeks and having some of our more expensive weeks happen then, because you're dropping you feel like you're falling behind.
Yeah.
So that probably brings us into our next point. Life has been very go, go, go for about 5 years now. And in particular, the last 12 months was Daniel's final year of uni. We were renovating our house and trying to finish all of that off. We got married.
We built the van out.
Oh yeah, we
ripped everything
gutted
out
the
of
van and built that out from scratch as well ourselves.
6 weeks away from leaving for this trip, there was nothing in the back of the van. Like the kitchen was partly built out. There was no bed or storage drawers or anything like that. So that's why we're still building a lot of it while we're on the road. That
brings us into our next sort of challenge that we found in the first month, which is learning to slow down.
If you've been watching our series since we left Adelaide, we've been playing catch up, or we had been playing catch up from Adelaide through to probably about halfway through the Nullarbor. And it was at that stage that we were, caught up. But then our troubles with our alternator meant we had to, fast track the rest of the Nullarbor. And from there, we've just sort of been moving at a fairly quick pace. And I think the next problem that we've got now is that we need to learn to slow down a little bit. All of our travel normally when we drive the van somewhere, it might be, a week trip or even just a weekend or something like that. It's a lot of driving and probably not that much time in each place. I think that's what we're used to, and I think that this is going to be a little bit of a challenge for us.
It's a big adjustment.
Yeah, learning to live life on the road and not doing 400 or 500 Ks every day, and instead just finding a place that we like, a place that we're happy to stay at for 2 or 3 days at a time, and just slowing down a bit. We just get a bit of itchy feet and we're keen to go on to the next place.
Like to see the places and do the things, and then when we're done, we're done.
And so that's something that we're going to have to adjust to a little bit. Otherwise, we're going to be finished our lap in about 2 months. We've got a budget to live, but not a budget to holiday for 12 months. So if you think about when you go for a holiday somewhere, you think, oh, there's these 6 different activities or whatever, that all cost money to do. I'm going to that place, I'm going to do those activities.
And you don't do anything for the next couple of weeks because you've just gotten back from your holiday. Back to your everyday lifestyle, and you're going to work, you're coming home, you're cooking dinner at home, and you're making your coffee on the way to work in the morning for yourself. And I guess continuing on that holiday lifestyle for a whole year, whether we were working full-time or not, would be...
We wouldn't be able to sustain it.
A bit too much, yeah.
It'd be very expensive. It's, you know, one day we might get there, and I'm not trying to say it's the wrong way to do it, but it's not the way that's going to fit our budget. So we're just, learning to live within our means while traveling and slowing down. One of the first things that we've noticed, and this is coming from our old build, which had 130 amp hours of AGM battery, to our new build having 200 amp hours of lithium battery, so it's pretty much tripled in usable capacity. We actually don't have enough power to run. We figured out fairly quickly that we didn't have enough power to run the internet, George's laptop, the fridge, everything else as often as we needed to. So we've gotten more solar. We've had more solar for a few weeks now.
Something else that's hard to plan for is when you're going between places, not knowing ahead of time whether you're going to have solar or not. So when you're relying on that, you're not driving far each day, which is part of the slowing down side of things. Obviously, we're saving money with slowing down, but then if we get somewhere and it's lots of tree coverage, and then we have a grey day, and then we get to the next place and it's also lots of tree coverage, that's thrown us off a little bit with the power quite a few times now.
We've been under trees a lot more often than I expected, and especially in caravan parks, and that's affected the Starlink too. We haven't been in a single caravan park where we've been able to stay parked up there for Georgia to do her work. We can get internet, but not enough to run a Teams session for an hour without dropouts. So we've run a fair few of Georgia's meetings in the visitor car park of the caravan park.
Or in the Coles car park, or the Bunnings car park.
Or on the side of the road.
Side of the road, down by the beach.
A 40-degree day.
The difficulty with our van setup and the confidentiality that comes with my work is that Daniel can't really be in the van while I'm working either. Yeah. Daniel can't really be in the van while I'm working either. So finding somewhere where we can park when we can't be in the caravan park, where there's things for Daniel to be able to do so that he's not outside of Port Augusta in a rest stop in 40 degrees, sitting on the ground outside the van.
Sounds mightily specific.
With his headphones on watching videos for an hour while I do a meeting has been something that we've been learning to navigate. But we've found Bunnings is a good place because he can go inside, and Daniel could easily spend half a day wandering around Bunnings.
I did.
And he has done.
And I bought a fishing
toilets,
knife.
There's a cafe, and then most Bunnings are also located close by to other things. So we've had some that are in the same spot as a BCF and a Repco, and it's just this boy's dream.
Oh, what colour?
Green.
Green.
Another thing on the budget, we'd sort of budgeted a nightly allocation for accommodation and then a weekly allocation for fuel. But what we've found has actually worked really well is combining the two. What that does is it means that if we want to or need to stay in a more expensive caravan park, then it just means that we drive less. And if we're staying in a more expensive caravan park, it's probably because it's in the middle of a town somewhere and there's more to do, so you don't have to drive as much. So
we've tried to put a fair bit of thought into that when we're looking at where to stay, which coming into a bigger town, looking at is it worth paying an extra $10 or $15 to stay in a caravan park that's really central rather than one that's on the outskirts, knowing that we can then walk around, or it might have a swimming pool, or it might be on the beach front.
Oh, sorry, did you say green?
Yeah, which gives us more things to do while we're there rather than having to drive as much if we're in a park on the outskirts of town. A little bit cheaper, but then we end up spending more on fuel and more on activities because we're travelling into town looking for things to do.
It takes a bit of mental load out, I suppose, instead of trying to balance our budget of, oh, we've got this much for accommodation, we've got this much for fuel. It's just more of a, if we're going to travel far, we need to stay somewhere cheap. If we're not going very far, then we can stay in a caravan park.
You know.
On our way out of Esperance.
Oh.
Whoa.
There's a scenic drive on, not really the way out of Esperance, but it's a loop that led us to the way out of Esperance. Got that in, went past Twilight Beach, Blue Haven, and all the others along that strip.
Our next stop after Esperance was Munglenup Beach, which you can camp there. I think it was $15 per night.
$15 a night.
But
it was full when we got there. We got there quite late that day. So we went down to the beach, explored the rock pools, went in for a bit of a swim, and then headed back to Munglanup, which is about 20 minutes from the beach heading inland. And there's a roadhouse there that has allocated free camping there.
The next day we went into Hopeton.
Yeah, parked up by the beach, had lunch, continued through the Fitzgerald River National Park.
Yeah,
which getting towards the end of the day when we headed in there. So we just drove through. We didn't really stop.
But it turns out that it's not a short, quick drive through the Fitzgerald National Park. There is a sign towards the start that says something like caution corrugations.
Yeah, it was like a temporary roadwork type sign, but obviously had been placed there for a reason. We sort of thought, well, we're pretty used to this. We do it quite often. So we'll just give it a go. And it was only a 60 kilometre road.
Yeah, roughly 60 kilometres long. And it was the worst corrugations we've ever driven. I reckon not just in the van, but in my last car, which was a four-wheel drive, and probably the car before that.
I've ever been in.
And we dropped our tyres twice. Part of it was just how deep they were and how close they were, and the other thing was just how
inconsistent.
uneven.
Yeah.
Just a bit of consistency would be nice.
It was so frustrating, and the sun was setting. It was nice scenery.
Did you pick up your 2?
Yeah, I did actually. Thank you. Thanks for checking. +4 to you as well.
I don't think you can stack +4s, can you?
You can definitely stack +4s. When we finally got to the end of that road, we were definitely pretty relieved. Staying at the old Fitzgerald school site, which is a free camp, there's nothing there. This is where we ended up staying last night, at the old Fitzgerald school site. So school's obviously gone, but there's an old cricket pitch down there. Georgia spent a couple of hours at work this morning, and we've just done a few things around the van to tidy up. So keen to hit the road, and after Bremer Bay, I've got a couple of places in mind.
That made it
red,
quite chill.
And then the next day,
no, blue.
No, red.
No, blue.
And then the next day, we went through the Fitzgerald River National Park, but the west side. So we'd left the east side the day before, went through the west side, and I thought it's far away enough. The roads are probably going to be, they can't be the same.
Well, I spoke too soon. This track is way worse than yesterday's, not just in the height and the depth of the corrugations, but it's also a lot longer. We passed a sign just before that said that we'd done 50 kilometres, and there was 54 kilometres to go, and it took us 2 hours to get to that sign. So we've probably got another 2 hours ahead of us.
Luckily, that was leaving first thing in the morning and having the whole day just to do that drive. So really, we were pretty flexible beyond there.
Yeah. Next up was Bremer Bay. It looked very family friendly. It looked like a nice spot.
It was a nice spot. We checked out the beach.
We found a lot of places that we've thought this would be nice to come back to, with kids.
We were running a bit low on time by that point after our 4-hour drive through the national park, so we didn't stay long.
See, this is the kind of thing that I like about travelling, is just driving around and seeing cool sights. Like, we're driving into this campsite now, and it just seems
Picturesque.
Probably looks terrible on the GoPro. Whoever's watching this is thinking, what are these guys on about? So similar to Elliston, we've just rocked up to Miller's Point, and one of the locals here has given us some good fishing advice. He said that we will do pretty well.
Apparently we'll bag out in half an hour.
So George is going to bag out in half an hour, and I'm going to catch 2 fish. I'm glad we came down that road because this place is really cool. I'm going to get these rods sorted out and catch some fish. I'd say Georgia won our last fishing comp pretty fair and square, so let's see how she goes today.
I did. Dan, I did.
Caught him.
I think.
Alright, hang on a sec. I'll just set that drag a little bit less. Alright, let's see, what do you got? There we go. First brim. It's a good one.
Cool. Our last morning when we were leaving happened to be the day that the caretaker was retiring, and we were talking to his friend that was helping him out, taking our money, and she was saying that there was no real plan at the time for what was going to happen next.
So it was $10 per person per night. It's probably changed.
And then we
Andy?
continued through to Cape Rich, which was really nice. Very popular spot. So we got there at about 1 o'clock and there was only 3 sites left.
Within about the next 10 minutes of us getting there, the others, like there would have been 3 or 4 more campers that rolled through. And I'm out.
I had yellow and blues.
That's a shame. So after we left Cape Rich, we went and stayed in a place called Lake Nunajup, so it was a longer day driving for us. So
Free camp.
as by the pattern.
Yep.
Free camp.
It seems like it would be a really tranquil place on most
peaceful.
weekends. Really nice lake, popular for skiing and things like that.
Toilets.
Toilets there. We got a bit unlucky. We turned up on a weekend where one of the locals was having their 50th and invited everybody.
They were all respectful.
Yeah, very respectful and friendly people doing the right thing, but there was just a lot of people. So this camp was packed out. What on earth is this? Hold on. Guys.
The next day we headed out to the Granite Skywalk, which was a good challenging walk to the top and some
very steep, very uphill the entire way. I think it's a grade 4 for about 80% of it and then a grade 5 for the last 20%. Pretty impressive though, well worth doing for sure.
The view's cool, but I think the best part is getting all the way to the end of the skywalk and then looking down because there's just a huge drop below.
Left the Granite Skywalk and headed through to Albany. We didn't do too much in Albany. Daniel was in need of a new phone.
My phone died the same day that our alternator died. Could have gotten something in Esperance, but I think it was like just the Telstra shop or something like that.
Yeah. Still not really 100% sure why, but it was a really busy weekend in Albany. So we managed to get one night, but it was not the cheapest and not in the best location. So we just booked the one night there as a stop through. Went to Torrendira National Park. We wanted to check out a few things there, but we had a lot of things on our list for that day. So we just did the main couple, which is the Gap and the Natural Bridge.
And then the campsites that we were going to that night were pretty popular ones, or from what we could tell were popular ones. So the first night we went to Torbay Inlet. So we wanted to get there pretty quickly so that we actually got a spot. That was $15 per night and a short walk to a pretty nice beach.
Yeah, it had a similar river to where we are now, nearby, and then about a 1 kilometre four-wheel drive track that we walked down to the beach, and then a very short trip down the road the next day to Cozy Corner.
Yes.
Really busy. I think we got the second to last spot there.
And that was $15 per night.
So there's Cozy Corner East and Cozy Corner West, and one of them had a shower and one of them has the campground. I think it's about a 15-minute walk down to the cold shower.
Yep.
Did a spot of fishing, got a couple of little whiting.
Yeah, 3 whiting, one that was big enough to bother keeping. The other 2 went straight back. Cooked that up straight away, just a bit of a snack before dinner.
Just chilled out there, did a bit of filming, did a bit of reading.
Uno.
This is a gamble. I'm feeling yellow.
Went to Denmark, 3 nights booked in the unpowered site, which is essentially
it's basically a bush camp that they put out behind the caravan park.
We ended up extending one night, initially unpowered, and then we went back in later and asked if we could change it and just pay the difference to be a powered site. They ended up doing for free because it was too difficult to just pay the difference.
And here we are, super excited that we got our free upgrade for a powered site right next to the amenities blocks. So we were like, we'll do our laundry as well while we're here. Went and put our laundry on, that's all wet, and then plugged in, power outage. Must have been something to do with the storm, because that went on for about 4 hours. So we had wet laundry that we couldn't chuck in the dryer because it was raining outside as well.
And it was already dark at that stage, so
and then it was dark.
Dry outside.
And we were leaving the next morning.
Yeah. Well, that was fun. But yeah, in Denmark, what did we do? We did snorkeling at Green's Pool, which was awesome.
Yeah. And checked out the Elephant's Rocks next door, so just a quick climb over the hill to see both of those.
We went to a chocolate place. We went to they've got a surfing museum there. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. Worth a stop.
I think $10 per person to get in.
Yeah.
Which it's worthwhile. There's
walk around the museum, and there's a movie you can sit and watch as well.
But yeah, that's the general gist of our Esperance to Denmark trip.
Yeah.
And a few of the things that we've sort of come to know or come to realise while we've been on the road. Things about how our budget looks, going from what it was on paper to what it actually looks like in real life, and the adjustments that we've made, such as combining what we allocated for fuel and for accommodation, and then working out how to balance that. I think that's taken a lot of stress out and made it a bit easier to keep up with that. Since first realising that we were probably going a bit too quick, I reckon there's probably been 6, 7, 8 places that we've stayed at least 2 nights. The last place that we stayed before we left here, we spent 5 nights in, so we really enjoyed that place. You'll find out in maybe the next video. But yeah, if you're still here and watching at this stage, thanks, Mum.
Yeah, next video we're covering Margaret River region, so
Yep.
stay tuned for that.
Yeah, the cost of camping through the Margaret River region, because there's no free camps through there.
Yeah, it was, we looked into it a bit. The Shire of Margaret River have a ban on free camping in that area, so it makes for a bit of a different layout of our trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. See you next week.
Oh man, just if you're still watching, I'm not going to get out of this. Oh my gosh.